We'll be reading from Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14 to 18. Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14 to 18. Since the children of flesh and blood, he too shared the humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. For surely it is not the angels for he helps, but Abraham's descendants, from them fully human in every way, in order that he may become a merciful and faithful high priest, in service to God, and that he might atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. You may be seated.
It's a great day for us to be able to assemble here and meet together and worship God, and we're glad for everyone that has come our way. We know that we have a number of visitors, and we're always blessed to have you with us. We hope that you'll come back at other opportunities and assemble with us here as well. It's great. I won't say a lot. I'll just say it's great to have Daryl back able to lead the singing. We're glad that he's recovered to the point that he can do that, and appreciate him using his talents to help us to be able to worship God fully. Heard about a man named Bob, not anybody that we would know, but a man named Bob had to go down to the Division of Motor Vehicles and renew his driver's license. And so he stood there in line for well over an hour. Finally, by the time he got up there and they took his picture and handed him his license, he took one look at it and he said, "Well, you know, I was waiting a long time, and so I look pretty grouchy." And so he tried to beg his case with the clerk so that maybe he could get his picture retaken. She looked at him and she said, "Oh, it's all right. That's probably how you'll look when the cop pulls you over." Do you know anybody that has any kind of problems? Anyone? Maybe when you look in the mirror in the morning. Do you know anybody that has any kind of problem? I'm sure you do. And if you are even in the least bit compassionate, when you see a friend or a neighbor, a relative or an acquaintance that has those problems, you instinctively, you naturally want to be able to help them. Have you ever had the experience that I have on too many occasions to even count? When you have wanted to say something and you opened your mouth and you said something, and the moment it came out, you realized it wasn't the right thing, it wasn't the right time, and you wished you could have those words back. My problem is that people expect me to say the right thing all the time. And guess what? Terry has tasted shoe leather more than probably anybody else in this room. All right? I just don't always say what I want to say. I don't always say it in the way that I want to say it. When we think about the problems of life, we all have them. We all want to help others with them, and yet we struggle. We struggle to be able to say and do the right thing. It causes us to have one more reason that we look at the world and we say, you know, the world would be a better place if we didn't have any pain and suffering, if there weren't any problems of any kind. And we begin to kind of ruminate about the fact that maybe God should have created the world differently, that God should have made us in which we were free from any of these kinds of negative aspects to life. I want to read to you a quote from a work called The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis, because it is very essential that we respect the problems that we have as being necessary to the world and to the purpose that God created you and me. You heard me right. Problems have a purpose. Listen to what C.S. Lewis wrote in his book, The Problem of Pain. He said, "We can perhaps conceive of a world in which God corrected the results of this abuse of free will by His creatures at every moment, so that a wooden beam became soft as grass when it was used as a weapon, and the air refused to obey me if I attempted to set up in it the sound waves of any lie or insult. But such a world would be one in which the wrong actions were impossible, and in which, therefore, freedom of the will would be void." Lewis's point is simple. If God acted to stop every man he sought to do evil, or every time he sought to do evil, man would have no freedom of will. In order for man to choose to do evil, the environment in which he lives must be capable of supporting such a choice. Man's environment must possess the qualities that enable him to do good if he wishes, but there is no way to have such an environment and keep beings who are truly free from abusing it if they desire. Think about it. The problems that we encounter are because God loves us. You say, that just doesn't seem to fit together, but it's because He loves you and He wants you to have the freedom to choose. And therefore, the world in which we live allows for the consequences of those choices. Jesus came to earth seeking to alleviate much of the pain and suffering that we experience. But in some situations, even with Jesus' healing, even with Jesus' miracles, and even with Jesus' marvelous teaching, there were still problems that people encountered. Yes, Jesus went about in every occasion doing good, but even amidst and amongst the people that He sought to show the very compassion of God, they still had problems. And if they had problems while Jesus was on earth, I guess we're going to have problems until Jesus comes back to earth. And it's the end of time. I want you to think with me about some of the occasions in which Jesus sought to help people. In John chapter 5, if Jesus came to the pool of Bethesda, there was a man lying there who had been sick for 38 years. And Jesus said in John 5:6, something that it just sounds incredible to our ears. Jesus looks at the man and He says, "Do you want to be made whole?" Do you want to be made whole? Of course I want to be made whole. The man starts giving excuses like, "Well, I don't have somebody to carry me down and put me into the water when it's stirred." Jesus heals the man. How many times did Jesus look out, like in Mark 6:34, when He looked out at the multitudes of the people and He had compassion on them because He saw them as sheep having no shepherd? Jesus was upset with the people when He was at the synagogue on the Sabbath day in Mark 3 and verse 5, when the man with the withered hand, they were all watching Jesus, waiting to see if He might do something about it, if He might heal him. But it was the Sabbath day. And Jesus looked at them and He said, "Is it right to do good or to do evil on the Sabbath?" When they sat in silence, Jesus, in His compassion, healed the man. In John chapter 9, as the disciples saw a man who was born blind, they asked Jesus, "Who sinned, this man or his parents?" Jesus said, "Neither." Jesus wasn't saying that they never had any sin, but Jesus was saying that this blindness was not the direct result of their personal sin. In the natural environment in which we live, there are problems. There are illnesses. There are diseases. There are things that are very painful. Do you remember that it was on the Mount of Olives as Jesus sat there teaching the people in John chapter 8 that they brought a woman before Him right in the middle of His class as He was speaking, teaching them. Said she was caught in the very act of adultery. The law says that she should be stoned. What do you say? Remember what Jesus said? "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." From the oldest to the youngest, they went away. And Jesus looked at the woman there in John 8:11 and he said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Jesus came so that we might have the aid for all that we need. There are many things that we experience in life. We say, this just isn't possible. Jesus, in talking about a rich man being able to enter into heaven, he said, with men it is impossible. With God it is not so. With God, all things are possible. Whatever the problems are that you're experiencing, or whatever problems that your friends and neighbors and relatives and acquaintances are experiencing, there is someone and there is something to provide the aid that they need. The passage that Hunter read for us so well in just a moment ago in Hebrews chapter 2. Look with me at this passage because I want you to see what Jesus came to provide. What Jesus offers for us. Number one, He gives us aid for those who fear death. Are you afraid of anything? Is there something that just causes you almost to be paralyzed with fear, frightened? What we say is, I was frightened almost to death. All right? Let me tell you something. One thing that fears all of us, or causes us to have some level of anxiety or fear, is death. We were created with a survival instinct, and we're going to fight to survive. We're going to strive for this body to keep going in some way, some form, some fashion. Jesus came to help us to overcome that. If you look here at the context in Hebrews, in chapters 1 and 2, the Hebrew writer is showing throughout the book, 13 times he shows that Jesus or Jesus' provisions are better than what they had under the Old Testament. Particularly in chapters 1 and 2, the writer is showing the superiority of Christ over angels. You say, well, what's the big deal about angels? Well, according to Galatians 3:19 and Acts 7:53, angels helped to mediate, that is, they brought or communicated much of the Old Testament message to the writers, to the prophets who recorded them. So the angels are greatly respected by the Jews for the fact that they mediated, they helped to bring the message of God. They communicated on God's behalf. The Hebrew writer says, but the communication that God has given us through His Son is better. It's complete. It's the perfect, the full revelation of God. So he's saying that Jesus is superior. In Hebrews chapter 2, verses 6 to 8, he quotes from Psalm 8 about, what is man that you are mindful of him and that we are made lower than the angels. And so the point that he makes there, look at Hebrews 2 and verse 9. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, might taste death for everyone. That passage there, it says, made a little lower than the angels, really has the indication of duration or time. So it says, made a little while lower than the angels. Jesus left heaven and came to be lower than the angels. He came and partook of human flesh, so that, as Peter would say in 1 Peter 3:18, the just for the unjust, or the innocent for the guilty. Jesus could take our place. Jesus came so that He could die so that we could live. As you think about the way in which Jesus endured this for a little while on the earth, for 33 or so years, Jesus walked on this earth. Jesus experienced in that time what we recognize is common. The pains, the struggles, the choices that every one of us make. Look in Hebrews 2 and verse 10. For it was fitting, that is, it was appropriate for Him, for whom all are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. Jesus is discussed in this passage as being the perfect Son of God, as being the perfect Savior in verse 14, as being the perfect sacrifice in verse 17. Jesus is perfect to provide the aid that we need. That word captain means pioneer. In chapter 12 and verse 2, it's often translated as the author of our faith. He's the one who went first, the path trailblazer. He opened the way so that we could follow. Jesus provides everything so that we can follow him to where he is. His destination can become ours. There is a sense in which Jesus came so that he could be identified with us. Flesh and blood. In verse 14, that he would partake of flesh and blood. Can I tell you that in our world today, I think there's something that maybe has swung completely from one side to the other. But I don't want to talk about that, but I do want to use this as a connection. When we talk about animals, pets, in our world today, sometimes people have lost sight of the fact that God put man in charge, that we're to have dominion over the world, and therefore the animals, we're not here to serve them, so to speak. We are here as stewards of this planet. But I don't want to elevate animals above human beings. That's not right. But I want you to understand that every one of us, in some way or another, we have sympathized with an animal. Maybe an animal that got hit on the road and was suffering, and so we sympathetically felt for the pain and suffering of that animal. We wanted to do something, or we wanted to be able to maybe even take away its misery. Think about this. Borland said this about the kinship of man and animals. He said, I saw the tracks of a rabbit, a fox, 2 field mice. I heard a cardinal whistle and a jay scream. Warm blood like mine, flesh like mine, that quivers with pain, senses keener than mine. You say, Terry, what's your point? My point is this. If you and I can feel for an animal as we see it possibly in pain, think about Jesus up in heaven, and he left heaven to come down here so that he could identify with us. Do you think that Jesus, in giving us aid for the fear of death, that Jesus came and partook of flesh and blood so that he could feel, so that he could sympathize with us? We have a high priest who can sympathize all the feelings with all the choices that we make. What the Hebrew writer says here, look at verse 14. That he himself likewise shared in the same, that through death he might destroy him who had the power of death. That is the devil. Revelation 1:18, it talks about Jesus having the keys over death and Hades. What Satan didn't know was when Jesus had died and was in the tomb for 3 days, as Jesus was there in the Hadean realm, when he left, he took the keys. Satan no longer has control, that the outcome or the destination of all of those disembodied souls or spirits in the Hadean realm, death isn't the last word. By a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, there is life, even through death. There is the hope of an eternal home in heaven through what Christ accomplished in being resurrected from the dead. And that's why in Acts chapter 2, on the very first gospel sermon, they said, there Peter and the apostles said, death could not hold him. He overcame. He rose. He was resurrected. Therefore, he is able to sit at the right hand of the throne of God. He possesses the keys. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, as Paul talks about the wonderful thought of resurrection and what Jesus' resurrection means for us, listen to what he says as he closes the chapter in verses 54 to 57 of 1 Corinthians 15. He says, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your sting? O Hades, where is your victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Victory. Aid to those who have the fear of death. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever watched or followed some of the shows that track the practice, the routine of professional athletes? And it doesn't matter whether it's golf or tennis or team sports like baseball, football, basketball, soccer. Those pro athletes train. They spend hours practicing their sport. What they do is they want to train their body in such a way, the muscle and the coordination, so that in the moment of competition, their body will react naturally. It will just automatically do what it needs to do to be able to handle that situation. And it doesn't matter whether it's a golf shot from a certain distance and a particular lie, or whether it's a pro athlete like a tennis player hitting the ball back over their head or between their legs. Okay? Whatever the situation, they've practiced. They've trained for that. Let me ask you, if you are a child of God, and you understand that Jesus came to give us the aid over the fear of death, have you been trained? You understand that one day all of us are going to face death. It could come in an instant from a tragic accident. It could come after a long illness. It could come at the end of a very long, aged life. Have you been trained? You say, Terry, how do you practice for death? I'm talking about overcoming the fear of death. I'm talking about allowing yourself to have the SOS, all right? The sponge of saturation. That is, for your heart, your mind, your soul to saturate itself with the Word of God, to listen to the promises, to read that and to be able to say, this is what I believe. I know that death is swallowed up in victory because Jesus rose from the dead, because Jesus overcame. I have a victory. Here's where that comes in. You know there are people out there with problems. There are some people who are hurting. There are some people who are struggling. And what they're struggling with more than anything is the fear of death. What they're struggling with is, well, what does this mean? When we go through a loss, psychologists say that any event or grief that causes us to struggle or change our meaning of life, that's a loss. There are people all around us who are hurting, who are grieving, who have lost. I'm not talking about Christians who have the aid of Jesus to overcome death. I'm talking about the world. People who don't have Jesus' aid or assistance, the hope in their life. What they need to see in us, what they need to hear us talking about is this confidence. Oh, I don't mean that we can't shed a tear. We can cry. We can shed and share the emotions. Jesus came. Jesus wept. But we need to have the answer. And the answer is the aid of Jesus to overcome the fear of death. Look secondly in this passage, as he says there in verse 17, we have the aid to overcome sin. We have the aid to overcome sin. Therefore, in all things he had to be made like his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. That word propitiation doesn't appear very often. It means satisfaction. That Jesus paid a debt. That Jesus was the Redeemer, the redemption. He bought us back by paying the price for our sins. The wages of sin is death, Paul says. The consequence of sin is the separation from God. Jesus came so that he might reconcile us to God, to himself. But that merciful and faithful high priest, I think about the Hebrews as they read this. They were familiar with the Jewish ways and the Jewish customs. And you know who had been high priest for many years at the time in which the Hebrew letter was being written? A member of a group, or the members of a group called the Sadducees. And they were sad, okay? But understand that they were also very cold and formal and traditional. They held on to the power of that like Annas and Caiaphas, who were the ones who had Jesus on trial. And if you looked at the high priest of the Sadducees, you didn't have any sense that there was compassion. There was nothing merciful about them. They were puppets for the state of, or the empire of Rome. But when you look at Jesus, oh, he's merciful. And Jesus didn't just come and say, well, I'll go through a little bit of pain. I'll let them do a few things to torture me, to hurt me. No, Jesus endured the agony of death. He went all the way through on the cross to the point and through death on that cross. He was merciful, and he was faithful. We need to recognize what Jesus did. Someone has written the account. They said in a dream that they were there. The soldier had his back to them, and he was beating Jesus with a whip as he was scourged before he was to be crucified. And this person accounts that as they were standing there, they could not help themselves, but they reached out and grabbed the arm of the soldier to stop them in mid-blow. And the soldier turned and looked at the person in this dream. And what the person saw got their attention. The face of the soldier was themselves. They saw themselves. You see, because they were the ones, because of their sins, who had given Jesus those stripes. They were the ones that required Jesus so that he would take that chastisement for our peace. Jesus was the one who took the abuse, the punishment that we deserved. Jesus gave aid for those who needed the propitiation for their sins. If we look around, who can best help or comfort somebody in a time of loss? When we look at someone who's a widow or a widower, they can comfort someone who has lost a spouse. When someone has lost a child, they're able to comfort someone in that time of grieving over the loss of a child. In each situation, we recognize that somebody who has the particular empathy of having been there, experienced, and been able to rise through that loss. Who better to help us with our sins than Jesus? Because Jesus did not sin. You say, but he doesn't know. Oh, yes, he does. In every situation, according to Hebrews 4:15, he endured, he yet without sin. He can sympathize with our weaknesses. Jesus was flesh and blood. In Hebrews chapter 7, in verses 23 to the end, but just beginning in verse 25, he says, therefore he is also able to save to the uttermost those who come to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them. For such a high priest was fitting for us, who is holy and harmless and undefiled, separate from sinners, and has become higher than the heavens, who does not need daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice first for his own sins and then for the people's. For this he did once for all, when he offered up himself. Jesus is that high priest. Jesus not only gives us aid for those who fear death and for those who need aid for their sins, but he also gives us aid for our temptations. Here in Hebrews 2:18, for in that he himself has suffered, being tempted, he is able to aid those who are tempted. Jesus could sympathize with our weaknesses, yet he was without sin. There are so many ways in which Jesus can identify with the way in which we suffer. In Matthew chapter 4, there the devil tempted him. And you remember the three temptations that he gave to him. What was Jesus' response? Every time he used the Word of God. Every time Jesus quoted Scripture to overcome the temptation. Do you have the Word of God saturated in your soul, in your mind, in your heart? I'm not saying that you have to be able to quote it word for word and cite the reference. I'm saying, do you know what God has communicated to give you strength, to support you, so that you can make the right choice in that moment of decision, in that moment of temptation? There is a way of escape. There is the support that we can find if we just listen. Overcoming temptation is so powerful when we have the aid that Christ gives when we are tempted. Michael Moss, the journalist, wrote a book. It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat. And in that book, he talks about the food industry and how the food industry has spent billions of dollars trying to design food, not because of its healthy content, but because they want to create within us a taste, a hunger. And so they have designed foods that in every sense create a desire something that satiety, that desire within us that we want, we crave that food. They make money off that. Who does that sound like? Trying to get people to want something not because it's good for them, but because it's good for him, the devil. Satan tempts us in every way. He comes at us from every angle. And what he tries to create within us is that temptation somehow is more fulfilling than doing and living and being a child of God. But you see, the aid that Jesus gives us helps us to overcome. It helps us to overcome the fear of death. It helps us to overcome our sins. It helps us to overcome temptation. In every way, Jesus had to be made like us so that he could give us this aid. In World War II, there was a small town in Europe that had a statue of Jesus. This was the pride and joy of that town. But in World War II, the bombs started falling, and in this European town, one of the bombs blew up that statue. The townspeople were so concerned that they gathered up all the pieces, and when the war was over, they began the process of having that statue reassembled. When they got the statue all back together with all the pieces that they had found, the statue of Jesus was complete, except for one part. The hands had been broken off. They were not retrieved. So the townspeople decided they just put a sign there. And it says, now we are the only hands of Jesus. What people need to see in our community is they need to see a picture of Jesus. And you and I are the canvas, and we paint the picture of Jesus, and what we need to do is make sure that they don't even see a finger of us. They see Jesus. If they can see Jesus in his glory, if they can see Jesus in his honor, they have the aid that they need. This morning, do you have the aid that you need to overcome the fear of death, to overcome sins in your life, to overcome the temptations that you face every single day? If not, come to Jesus. Come today and be baptized into Christ. Put on Christ so that you have the aid, the strength, the source, all that you need in every situation. If in your life as a Christian you realize that you have deviated from that course and you've not allowed people to see the fullness of Christ in you, and you want to renew that commitment so that you can begin afresh to allow Jesus to be seen in you, come today. Let us encourage you. Let us pray with you. If there's anyone who needs to respond, the invitation is Christ. He is your aid. Come to him right now while we stand.